I was heading to work in my Subaru Outback.
Very gay. Marcus shows up at the hospital like concerned over his boyfriend who's just been in a car accident, and he's like, yeah, I got in a car accident. I met Jesus. I think you're a sinful piece of garbage. And I'm breaking up with you. That's a big day for Mark. It's a big day for everyone here, honestly. Big day for Jesus. Big bean of the cheese world.
He thought the head trauma had affected my mind.
Well, you know what? Marcus might be onto something there. So what's the moral here? We need to get all gay men half dead so they can meet Jesus too. So everybody will just sail off into the sunset being straight, wearing khakis, drinking light beer, and listening to country music, you know? Get the tiki torches out. It's time for pasta salad. I don't think this is real. I think this is fake. Hello, you stunning woman on the go. Welcome back to Dismantling Hate. I'm your host, David They, and today we are going to look at the YouTube channel of Returned Souls. And the video that we're going to be reacting to is called Gay Man Dies, Meets Jesus, and What He Saw Made Him Turn Straight. A little bit of late night nonsense is what we're gonna get ourselves into. So let's take a look at the YouTube channel of Returned Souls. So it says, welcome to Returned Souls, your daily journey into true near-death experiences. I narrate firsthand accounts of who's glimpsed who've. This is AI, isn't it? Is this all gonna be AI? Because this is a mess to read. I narrate firsthand accounts of those who've glimpsed the afterlife, offering inspiration and insight into the great beyond, from heavenly encounters to unexplained phenomena. Each story invites you to explore the extraordinary. Subscribe for daily doses of wonder and join our community of curious minds as we unravel the mysteries of life, death, and everything in between. Like, these thumbnails are AI. You can't tell me any difference. So is this whole thing just gonna be AI? That would be really sad. Anyway, so I'm gonna roll myself on over. We're gonna roll the intro and let's see what Jesus really said about sexuality. Can't wait. Dismantling Hate starts now.
Show me to me, please.
Hold on to your hats. Let's go.
In this shocking near-death experience, former gay man Zachary Blackwood discovers the terrifying truth about the afterlife that made him completely transform his life. What he witnessed will leave you speechless. I'm Zachary Blackwood, 47 years old, living in Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, so he's narrating somebody else's story. Zachary Blackwood. I'm gonna Google Zachary Blackwood to see if this is a real story or if this is AI. Yeah, I can't find anything about Zachary Blackwood and a near-death experience, so that would lead me to believe that this is AI, but let's keep going.
Before I tell you about my near-death experience, you need to know who I was. I lived in a cozy 2-story house near Lake Champlain.
And I was a honey, have you heard honey? Anyway.
Working as a graphic designer for a local advertising agency.
Very gay.
I was openly gay and had been in a relationship with Marcus for 3 years.
Marcus and Zachary.
That's a compliment.
Sorry, I'll keep it together. I'm okay.
That morning started like any other. I was heading to work in my Subaru Outback.
Very gay.
Sipping my usual
But not the right kind.
caramel macchiato. The fall colors were stunning, and the crisp morning air.
I'm sorry, but even the use of the word stunning just comes off as homosexual to me. Holy, what has gotten into me in the last 45 seconds? Okay, slow down. We can do this. It's just, maybe it's because it's the stereotypes, right? We're building this archetype. Zachary Blackwood, you're not a real person. Zachary Blackwood and Marcus, you're not real people. You're lies. You're fake gays.
Refreshing. I had just finished a phone call with Marcus about our weekend plans when it happened. A massive moose appeared out of nowhere on Route 7. In Vermont, moose accidents aren't uncommon, but nothing prepares you for a 1,500-pound animal suddenly standing in your path.
Moose accidents? I gotta say, I'm hooked. I'm hooked, whoever this is. I'm hooked. This is interesting.
I swerved hard to avoid it, but at 65 miles per hour, my car spun out of control. The last thing I remember was my coffee cup flying through the air as my car rolled down the steep embankment.
Yikes.
The crash was brutal. My car hit several trees before coming to rest at the bottom of the ravine. The impact crushed the driver's side, and I was pinned between the steering wheel and the seat.
If that's real, that's terrifying.
Later, I learned that a passing truck driver saw my car's taillights through the trees and called 911. The rescue was complicated. The steep terrain made it difficult for emergency services to reach me.
Yeah.
It took them over an hour to cut me out of the wreckage.
Wow.
By then, I had lost a lot of blood from multiple injuries: 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, internal bleeding, and severe head trauma.
Yikes.
I remember fragments of the rescue: the sound of metal being cut, voices shouting instructions, the whirring of helicopter blades. They airlifted me to the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington. The doctors later told me that I died twice in the helicopter, once for 3 minutes and again for 4 minutes. Marcus was at work when he got the call. He rushed to the hospital.
Okay, this is sad now, right? Interesting about the near-death experience. Like, if he really didn't have memories, or if he had spotty memories of like being rescued in that, why are we taking his recollection of a near-death experience at face value? You know, like if you can barely remember getting cut out of the vehicle, it stands to reason you might misremember or attribute something like hallucinations while your body's going through shock and trauma as a near-death experience where you meet Jesus, right? Like, let's be for real.
By then, I was already in emergency surgery. The doctors gave me a 20% chance of survival.
Yikes.
Multiple surgeries were needed to stop the internal bleeding and repair the damage to my organs. What happened during those minutes when my heart stopped changed everything. The experience was so vivid, so real, that it completely transformed my understanding of life, death, and everything I thought I knew about existence.
But like, dreams are vivid and real feeling when you're in them too. Like, let's be for real.
It wasn't like the peaceful, loving experiences you often hear about in near-death stories.
Oh, it was brimstone because gay.
What I saw and felt was something entirely different, something that would haunt me forever. Before this happened, I was comfortable with who I was. I had a good life, a loving partner, and a successful career. I never questioned my lifestyle or beliefs.
Where is this
I
going?
was raised Catholic, but hadn't been to church since high school. Religion wasn't part of my life, and I didn't think it needed to be. I believed that if there was a God, he would accept me as I was.
Well, same. Yeah, true. But until I drive my car off a cliff and meet Jesus and decide to be straight, I don't see this happening for me. But this didn't even happen for this guy. Get real.
But those minutes when I was clinically dead showed me how wrong I had been. The experience shook me to my core and forced me to confront truths I had been avoiding my entire life. What I saw in those moments between life and death would change not just my beliefs, but my entire way of living. The moment my heart stopped, everything changed. It wasn't like falling asleep or passing out. It was instant and crystal clear. I felt myself separate from my body, floating above the helicopter. I could see the paramedics working frantically on my lifeless form below, but I felt strangely detached from it all. Like watching a movie about someone else.
Like, you leave me the timestamp of when you're checked out, of when you think this isn't real anymore, because this is theater, honey.
Then came the tunnel. Not the peaceful, warm light that people often describe, but
It's
a
the gay tunnel.
swirling vortex that pulled me in with incredible force.
Mm-hmm.
The sensation was terrifying, like being sucked through a vacuum at impossible speeds. Colors I'd never seen before swirled around me.
Ooh, that's fun. I want to see new colors.
And there was a deep, resonating hum that seemed to vibrate through my very being. As I moved through this tunnel, I began to feel an overwhelming sense of my life's actions being laid bare. It wasn't just memories playing back. It was like experiencing every moment simultaneously. But this time I felt the full weight and consequence of each action. Every lie I'd told, every person I'd hurt, every selfish decision.
He said he grew up Catholic. You see how much shame does on the human psyche? A lot. Stop shaming people. All of these feelings right now is shame, because your life does flash before your eyes. I think I read a study once of why that happens. I don't remember why, but it is like your life does flash before your eyes in a very overwhelming way. But if you have shame about any of those things that you've done in your life and all of your most shameful memories are being flashed before your eyes, of course you're going to feel that intense amount of shame, right? Like, it makes sense. But if you feel good about all of those things and you don't have shame for it, then you would feel chill watching all those. I feel like I've been saying this so much lately, but like, if we think for more than just 5 seconds, we can do better than this.
They all carried a physical weight that pressed against me. The most crushing revelations were about my relationships. I saw Marcus, but not in the loving light I was used to. Instead, I saw how our relationship, which I had always defended as love, was actually causing spiritual harm to both of us. Each intimate moment we shared appeared as dark spots on our souls, like ink drops in clear water.
There's so many jokes I want to make.
I saw my childhood, when I first started feeling different from other boys. I remembered the confusion, the fear, and eventually the defiance against traditional values.
Okay.
But now, from this new perspective, I could see how each step away from my early religious upbringing had led me further from truth.
So what's the moral here? We need to get all gay men half dead so they can meet Jesus too, so everybody will just sail off into the sunset being straight, wearing khakis, drinking light beer, and listening to country music, you know? Get the tiki torches out. It's time for pasta salad. Those were all white people references, not necessarily straight people references. It's late.
The tunnel experience felt like it lasted for hours, though it was
Been there.
probably just seconds in real time. Then suddenly, everything stopped. I found myself in a vast space that defied description. It wasn't dark or light. It just was.
It was a secret third thing.
I wasn't alone. A presence approached me. It wasn't a physical form, but I knew immediately who it was.
Jeebus!
Jesus Christ himself. The recognition came with absolute certainty, like suddenly remembering something you've always known but somehow forgot. His presence was overwhelming, pure love mixed with an authority that made me want to fall to my knees. But this wasn't the gentle Jesus from Sunday's
Pure love mixed with authority. Girl, I got whiplash from that sentence.
pictures. This was the King of Kings, the judge of all creation.
Oh, you mean Jinx Monsoon? Oh, that's Queen of Queens, sorry.
In his presence, every justification I'd ever made for my lifestyle crumbled to dust. I couldn't hide anything. Not from him, not from myself. He didn't speak with words, but his message flowed directly into my consciousness.
Yeah, he just looked at me and I knew in that moment that I was embarrassed by being a Yeah, all normal things. Makes perfect sense.
I understood that he loved me with an intensity that was almost painful, but that love didn't mean acceptance of all my choices. I saw how my lifestyle, which I had convinced myself was natural and good, was actually in direct opposition to his design. The message was clear. My sexual orientation itself wasn't the sin. It was the choice to act on it.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be celibate. I've done a video on don't be gay, be celibate instead. A very depressing video talking about just that. That is the value. You can be gay, that's fine. Just don't act on it, which doesn't make any sense. That's just your test. And if you are interested in engaging with other folks sexually, you just can't. Well, straight people can. If they get married. I guess the marriage is really the whole thing in there because you're not supposed to unless you're married either. It's all about power and control, right? This is sad.
To make it my identity. I saw how this choice had affected not just me, but others around me. Every time I'd encouraged someone else to be true to themselves by embracing homosexuality, I'd actually been leading them away from salvation. Then came the most difficult part. Jesus showed me others. Countless souls who had made the same choices I had. I saw them in what I can only describe as a holding place. Not quite hell, but definitely not heaven. They were trapped in their own justifications, unable to move forward because they refused to acknowledge the truth about their choices. What struck me most was that many of these souls had been religious, even Christians, but they had chosen to interpret scripture in ways that justified their lifestyle.
Like, have you read the scripture, though, of like how convoluted in the translations and the different languages and the iterations and all these things? Of course, there's room for people to misinterpret some of that information. So if you don't read it correctly, like, you have so many people, let's say for Catholicism, for example, that believe in different things. So if you're somebody who's going out there searching for meaning and the final definitive word, if this is how it really works, which, spoiler alert, it doesn't, but we'll placate this AI man and say that he's right in this instance. But like, let's follow it all the way to the end, right? Because then who is the single authority? The one that's most hateful? Just be terrified to do anything ever. Just sit at home and don't do anything. And then, well, no, you would probably even be sent to hell's waiting room for that too. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's hateful, and it blows my mind that people spend their time making stuff like this. It's manipulative.
And conform to God's actual design. I saw how this deliberate misinterpretation had created a barrier between them and true salvation. The presence of Jesus then guided me to witness something that still makes me shudder. I saw glimpses of hell, not the cartoonish version with red devils and pitchforks, but something far more terrifying. It was a place of complete separation from God's love, where souls experienced the full consequence of their choices. I understood then that hell wasn't a punishment God created out of anger, but rather the natural result of choosing to live permanently separated from Him.
Clawing for something real. Like, sure, it sounds scary, but there's no exact, like, they're not giving an example. It's just, yeah. Like, it sounds scary, sure, I'll say that. But if that's where I'm going, just because I choose to be who I am, if I look at this critically, because I'm a very critical, analytical thinker, if I look at my life and the time between now and the end of my life, right? Let's say 60 years. 50 of those will probably be pretty good. I can choose to be who I am and do what I want to do for the next 50 good years that I have, or I can choose to follow the word of God and be bathed in His blood and have a boring, limited anticlimax of a life that God wants me to, in order to go to a space that isn't yet proven, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, my continuation in life is more proven than anything else. Sure, I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, but probably not. My continuation of life is pretty solid, right? Heaven and hell, we don't know if those exist. We really don't know. Nobody has true definitive proof other than AI folks like this who make up nonsense, right? I would rather live for right now than for what might be coming. It seems like a waste of time. It seems like a waste of your life. And if you are being manipulated, or if you are holding yourself to the standard of these religions, I do really implore you to take a moment, pause, and ask yourself, what are other folks gaining by me not doing what I want, by me not being authentic, by me feeling shame? What are other folks gaining from that? There's never going to be one answer, but if you go searching for the answer to that question, you're going to pull strings on the tapestry that are going to come flying out like you would not believe. It is a very dark place when you start to look at religion and its motivations like this, especially when it comes to Catholicism and Christianity. I don't have much experience with other religions, to be honest, so it might be pretty similar, but it's just gross. It's manipulation. Let people do what they want. Do you want to be happy now? Or do you want to be happy maybe when heaven's a real place? Like, it's just, and I'm very critical. I'm very black and white in my thinking and like that too. So maybe you wouldn't agree. Maybe you would rather have a subpar life here on earth to have a better shot at maybe something later. And that's fine. Go for it. But me personally, I'm not a gambler. I never really got off on the gambling. I'd prefer nicotine. What a great pause. Anywho, okay, let's finish this up.
Had made their choice during their earthly lives, and now that choice was eternalized. What happened next was even more intense. Jesus began showing me the truth about sexuality and gender as He designed it. I saw how the male and female union was more than just physical. It was a spiritual reality that reflected deeper truths about God's relationship with humanity.
Like, can we get any examples of those things? Like, I'll settle for a Coles Notes version, buddy. Like, I'm dying for a scope and sequence document here. Like, we're alluding to all of these things, but not explaining them all, which is usually the case because most of these folks usually speak in generalities. And when you need to get more specific, it all falls apart because there is nothing specific.
I was shown how modern culture's embrace of alternative lifestyles wasn't progress, but rather a sophisticated form of deception. Each step away from traditional marriage and gender roles was actually a step away from divine truth.
From gender roles specifically. So this person is arguing for the implementation of gender roles. Like, we're not surprised, but that's bad crap crazy. I've sworn a lot already in this video, and I've said many times, and that's another one. It's just fun to say. I could say it. I can. I have friends who are gay. In Hell's waiting room. No, don't want to make that joke. Okay.
The revelation continued as I was shown the spiritual impact of pride parades, gender transition surgeries, and same-sex marriages.
Yeah, because that's the same thing. Going to a pride parade, you might as well get bottom surgery on the way, because I think it's half off at Pride, right? That's how that works. And if you go, you can get a Groupon. 5 of you go for bottom surgery, 6 ones free. That's nice. That's nice. What in the world?
From this heavenly perspective, I could see the spiritual darkness that surrounded these events, despite their outward appearance of joy and celebration. But what hurt most was seeing how my own activism had affected others. Every time I had spoken out in favor of LGBTQ+ rights, I had been unknowingly leading others away from salvation. The weight of this responsibility was crushing. Jesus showed me specific moments, conversations I'd had, social media posts I'd made, young people I'd influenced.
Like, if I think of this in terms of myself and my activism, not only in educational spaces, working with kids in classrooms, but in just pretty much in everything that I do, right? And I mean, hell, you're watching the 8th episode of Dismantling Hate. Like, I do a lot. And I'm not sitting here saying that this isn't outside of the realm of possibility. Could this be a true story? I'm gonna say yes, but like a 99% to 1%. Not probable. So let's say that I had this experience. Sure. I would go back and I would probably be doing the same thing. I think the problem is I don't believe that this person actually had this experience. But if we look at what's most probable, I said before I'm not interested in gambling, especially when it comes to human rights. Awkward, except it's not. Awkward for them. I don't know. I'm kind of losing it. We got 5 minutes left.
Instance was like a stone around my neck, and I felt the full weight of my role in leading others astray. Yet through all this, I felt no condemnation from Jesus, only an overwhelming love and desire for me to understand the truth. He showed me how many of my gay friends were actually struggling with their choices, despite their outward appearance of happiness and pride. Then came a series of visions about my future, 2 possible paths. In one, I continued my current lifestyle, eventually dying without changing and facing the eternal consequences. In the other, I embraced the truth, left my gay lifestyle, and helped others do the same.
Being gay is not a lifestyle. Being a is a lifestyle. God, I have to stop saying that word.
Contrast between these 2 futures was stark and undeniable. I was shown that my same-sex attractions weren't my fault. They were the result of various influences and experiences in my life.
No. Being queer and having same-sex attraction like that is discernible by science. That's not just like, oh, something happened to you, you're traumatized, and now you're gay. I don't know why I turned into like Mr. Piggy there. Miss Piggy, but Mr. Anyway, what a disaster.
How I chose to act on them was my responsibility. Jesus revealed that he offered the strength to resist these desires, even if they didn't completely go away in this lifetime. The most powerful moment came when I was shown people who had successfully left the gay lifestyle. Their struggles were immense, but their joy in following truth was even greater. I saw their crowns of victory in heaven, earned through their difficult but faithful choices on earth. This part of the experience ended with a profound understanding.
Everything is profound and unexplainable, and why? Why is it all like that? I'm not going to answer it, but why?
True love isn't about affirming everyone's choices, but about helping people find their way to God's truth, even when that truth is difficult.
But you're one God. Like, what do you think about people who have a different religion? Are they just all also going to hell? It's crazy. Like, the fact that religion is just like this shell game where you're treating people as pawns, and the more it's like Risk, basically, where you're just trying to have world domination over your specific brand of psychosis.
At this point in my experience, everything shifted. I found myself in what I can only describe as a heavenly courtroom. But instead of being put on trial, I was being given a choice. I could return to Earth with this new understanding, or I could face judgment right then. The weight of this decision was enormous.
What do you mean? He had the option whether to live or die. Is that what that just meant? Maybe I'm wrong. What a stupid... Ugh.
I knew that if I chose to return, I would have to completely change my life.
Oh, I
would
see.
lose friends, face criticism, and have to leave Marcus, whom I truly cared about.
Not Marcus.
But I also knew that staying would mean facing judgment for my unrepented sins. Jesus showed me.
Can you imagine? Marcus shows up at the hospital, like, concerned over his boyfriend who's just been in a car accident. And he's like, yeah, I got in a car accident. I met Jesus. I think you're a sinful piece of garbage. And I'm breaking up with you. That's a big day for Mark. It's a big day for everyone here, honestly. Yeah, big day for Jesus. Big bean of the cheese world. That's for you, Amber. I'm going to leave that in right there.
My return would serve a greater purpose. My experience could help others trapped in the same lifestyle I had been living. He revealed how many people were secretly questioning their gay lifestyle but felt too afraid or confused to change. I was given a glimpse of the support system that would be available to me if I chose to return. Genuine Christians who would help me transition out of my gay lifestyle, counselors who understood the spiritual aspects of sexuality, and even some unexpected allies.
I'm sorry, there are no spiritual aspects to sexuality. Well, I guess maybe there are. Like spirituality in the sense of religion? No. Spirituality in the sense of spirituality? Sure. I don't know what I'm saying. I hate this.
The most moving part was seeing how my testimony could potentially save others.
He started with Testa and I didn't...
I was shown specific people, some I knew, others I hadn't met yet, who would be impacted by my story. Their eternal destinies could change because of my willingness to speak the truth. Before making my decision, I was given one final vision. I saw myself speaking to large groups, sharing my testimony, and helping others find freedom from the gay life.
For the love of God, literally. I guess I really haven't made note of the fact that I'm intently watching the background of crashing waves, and it's not even a video. It's like this 8-second clip that just keeps repeating, and I don't even have subtitles on, but I'm watching it as if it's an actual video of something that's happening. Yeah, so don't be confused if you're like, what is David watching? I'm watching the waves. I like the water. Yeah.
I saw tears of joy as people found healing and restoration through accepting God's design for sexuality.
This is torture.
But I was also shown the cost. I saw myself being called a bigot, a traitor to the LGBTQ+ community.
Well, yes.
Worse, I saw former friends turning their backs on me, social media attacks, and even threats to my safety. Yet alongside these challenges, I saw the peace that comes from living in truth. The choice became clear. With a mixture of fear and determination, I chose to return. The moment I made this decision, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace and purpose, despite knowing the difficulties that lay ahead.
Peace and purpose.
Just before returning to my body, I received one final message. My mission wasn't to condemn, but to love, to help others find the same truth I had discovered, always with compassion and understanding, remembering that I too had once been blind to these truths. Waking up in the hospital was like being born again. The physical pain...
He better tell us about his interaction with Marcus, but we only have 2 minutes left.
Intense, but it paled in comparison to the spiritual awakening I had experienced. Marcus was by my bedside, holding my hand.
Okay.
But I knew things would never be the same between us. The first few weeks were the hardest. Explaining my experience to Marcus broke both our hearts. He thought the head trauma had affected my mind.
Well, you know what? Marcus might be onto something there. Oh, God. This is so awkward and cringy, but I love it, but I hate it.
I would come to my senses once I recovered, but I knew what I had seen was real. I found a supportive church and began the difficult journey of transformation. Some days were harder than others. The same-sex attractions didn't magically disappear, but I now had the strength and understanding to resist them. My story spread quickly through social media. As expected, I faced intense backlash from the LGBTQ+ community.
You know what? He's talking about all social media and all this stuff. I did not find it. I did not find it. I didn't. Prove me wrong. Give me the link of the news story in the comments. I don't think this is real. I think this is fake.
Former friends accused me of internalized homophobia,
Well, yes.
betraying the cause. But for every person who rejected me, another reached out privately, expressing their own doubts about the gay lifestyle. Today, 2 years later, I run a...
And like, you can have doubts about your sexuality. Like, I've been through that too. When I was younger, I was assigned essentially gay, right? Because I was very feminine, right? I was a very feminine boy. I know, you can't imagine. But right from an early age, people were like, oh, David's gay, David's gay, David's gay. And I do. I didn't argue with that because it wasn't out of complete left field, but there's more to it than that, right? So, and I remember having that struggle of internalized heterophobia, to be completely honest, of how can I go back in what feels like the opposite direction when this has been my identity for so long. So when these people argue that your sexuality shouldn't be your identity, I do agree with that. That your gender and your sexuality should be one of the least interesting things about you. But when people have to wear that as armor in order to compete in the ring with hateful liars, in my opinion, like this, can you blame them? You can't.
Group for people questioning their sexual identity or seeking to leave the LGBTQ plus lifestyle. It's not about conversion therapy or forcing change. It's about sharing truth with love and supporting those who choose to follow God's design.
So conversion therapy.
The accident that nearly killed me actually saved my life, and not just mine. Every week I receive messages from people who found hope and healing through my testimony. Some choose to leave the gay lifestyle, others are still wrestling with their decisions, but all of them know they're loved by God.
It's so dark now.
My near-death experience showed me that true love sometimes means speaking difficult truths. The eternal consequences are too serious to remain silent.
30 seconds.
Yes, I lost my old life, but I gained something far more precious.
Jesus.
The peace of living in truth. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, it didn't touch my heart. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode of Dismantling Hate. Thank you so much for getting to the end. I really appreciate you being here. If you like this and want more, you can subscribe to the Dismantling Hate channel or my main channel. And if you want some short form Dismantling Hate, you can follow my Instagram and TikTok at dismantling_hate on both platforms. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this was a real story or do you think it was fake AI? I think it was fake AI. It sounds like fake AF, but it's not. My light went out, so it's a little bit dark now. But honestly, I'm kind of living for this light. Yeah. Anyway, I'm David. I'm stunning and gorgeous. That's all from me. I'm gonna go have some head trauma and then maybe not be gay anymore. So if you never see me again, I probably fell down the stairs, had head trauma, met Jesus, and just became straight. And if I'm straight, can't be doing all this other stuff. That's so stupid. Okay, see you next week. Bye.